Good morning, YouTube. Well, can you hear that out there in the distance? I have a backyard full of flying rats called Canadian honkers. And you know what? The only thing they good for, and I do mean the only thing they good for, is whack off them feathers and chuck their butt on the platter for something to eat. Well, if you all excuse me here for a minute, I am going to pour myself a cup of tea. And the tea I'm pouring, check this out. Clear as water, pine needle tea. This is for the fella who was making pine needle tea on YouTube the other day, and it was brown and all yummy looking like a regular cup of tea. Well, yeah, okay. It was brown because you added brown sugar to it. This, because I am a diabetic, is sweetened with artificial sweetener and nothing else. So it's nice and clear as water. But I digress. This is not what I came out here to talk to you folks about on my back porch. On a cold day here in New England, it's 20 degrees. Starting to rain. Probably going to be freezing rain. Roads are going to be slick as ice. Okay, a couple days ago, a nice looking young lady was doing a video on YouTube, and she was talking about canning in mayonnaise and Miracle Whip jars, why you shouldn't ought to do it, because they're subject to chips in the lip, and they're subject to microfractures in their bottoms, and this would cause them to rupture in the canner. Well, I can tell she hasn't been canning long. I have been canning food for preservation for 6 decades. I've had times when I've had an entire canner full of Ball or Mason or Kerr or a mix of all three. 7 jars in the canner all at one time, and every single one of them rupture. I have over 6 decades figured this out, and I'm going to share that information with you. And I'm going to tell you right up front, point blank, it's operator error. It's the same operator error as they're experiencing right now with these new Tadler lids coming out of the canner, and the lid is domed or convexed. It's operator error, and it's the same error. So now let me let you in on a little inside baseball information. When a glass jar is manufactured, it is what they call blown and or molded. Sometimes both. What happens is after the glass is blown and or molded, it is then cut off of what they call the puntal. That's the pipe they dip the glass out of the glass furnace with. The glass is then set inside what they call a kiln, and it is annealed for 12, 14, 24 hours. It varies, it depends. Here's the caveat to that. If that glass is exposed to a blast of cooler air at just the wrong moment in the manufacturing process, it causes stress fractures in the bottom of the glass jar. This is why you will have glass jars rupture in your canner, because you cranked the band on the lid too tightly, and pressure builds inside the glass jar, and that pressure causes the bottle to rupture. Same goes for the new Tadler lids. Now, mind you, the new Tadler lids are plastic, and therefore they are subject to heat deformation. This is why they convex. The idea is you do not crank the band on the jar until the jar comes out of the canner. And usually you want to wait 2 or 3 minutes after you take it out and set it on a towel. Just let it sit and bubble away for a couple minutes. Then you go back with a towel to hold the jar and a pot holder to hold the ring, and you crank the ring down then. Now this nice lady was talking about mayonnaise and Miracle Whip jars doing this, rupturing in the canner. Chips in the lip, they don't seal. Well, guess what? Ball, Mason, and Kerr are not immune to these problems. You have to inspect your glass You got to make sure it doesn't clink together in the sterilization process, whether you use a boiling water bath to sterilize or a hot oven to sterilize. I don't care. It doesn't make any difference. As long as you get that glass above 220 degrees. Or get it above 180 and hold it there for at least an hour. That's called pasteurization. And it'll do the same job. It'll sterilize the glass. Your metal lids. I hear people say boil them. I hear people say pour boiled water that is still very hot over them in a bowl and let it sit. And I hear people say, oh, you got to be real careful. You boil them lids and you'll turn that rubber stuff no good. Well, I got to agree with them there. You don't boil the lids. You bring the water to a boil, you turn it off, you drop the lids in. You let them set. The rubber stuff isn't rubber. It is called sealing compound. It has been around for decades. All millennia. Goes all the way back to the original glass-lidded canning jars that had a rubber compound ring that went on the glass jar, then the glass lid set on top, and then there was a spring wire metal bail that went over the top of the lid to hold it in place. One of my favorite canning options is the glass lid with the rubber rings, as they're called. You can't over tighten them. The spring bail holds the glass down, holds the glass lid down, and it is just weak enough that it allows the gas to escape no problem. Where you run into trouble with these things is you have two sides of glass against that compound ring and one little chip on either side and the seal fails. That's where that had its problems. So boys and girls, nothing's perfect, not even metal canning like you get at the LDS centers. Even those are prone to failures if there's just one little thing wrong. Don't blame it on the lids. Don't blame it on the glass. It's operator error. Period. So I'm going to tell you the same way the geeks with the computers tell you. RTFM. Read the frickin' manual. It's a poor craftsman that blames his tools for the failures he has. It's that simple, boys and girls. In the words of one of my favorite channels, be of good conscience, be of good courage. Long live the Republic. God bless the United States. In my words, peace out.